Hello everybody and welcome back to the Python tutorial with Rehan series on Game On. Make sure to check out the other videos in our channel, and today I will be doing Python tutorial 3. And today we're going to actually cover a completely new concept, and we're going to cover functions. So we're going to go through it in quite a bit of depth. So let's get started. First, what is a function? A function is basically you can write a block of code under a name and you can call it later on in the game or program, right? If you want to use the same code again and again. So it's not like a loop. Loops you do again and again at the same spot or while something's happening. But you can call this function. It's called calling the function whenever you want if you define a function. So I'm going to give an example. So let's say you made a game which is like a quiz. So for a quiz you need something to check the answers. And that might be quite a bit of code, so you don't want to write it every single time again and again for each time you check. So what you can do is you can write a function instead. So you just write a name, you can put it under a name, and then you can just type in that name, and I'll show you the syntax for that later on. So let's get right into it. So first, how to define a function. I'm just going to do some warm-ups quickly. I really like doing really quick warm-ups when I first get in, like printing hi, trying out some new stuff, and then normally I just I try printing inputs and stuff. So once you get it, just warm up with everything you know. Just try out new things, see what happens. Just type in some numbers, and yeah. Then after you have a bit of a warm up and you've gone through a bit of things you've learned before, we're gonna get started. And yeah, so let's get right into it at first. So how to define a function? To define a function, you need a few basic steps. The first step is to call the def function. There are also built-in functions. Let's say print. So I'm just gonna go type up print, and then I'm printing the function print to see. And when I press print, it says built-in function print. So basically, print is a built-in function which is already built into Python. That's why when you just type in print something, it calls that function, it runs the code inside, and so on. So to write a function, we're gonna have to open up a new file. How you do that is file, new file, or Control N. I'm just gonna use the Control N because it's much shorter. So I think first we should work on shell and move on. So the first step to writing a function is def. So def is another built-in function in Python. You have to use that to write your own functions. Like, there aren't functions for everything, literally. So sometimes you need to write your own function. So let's say def, and I'm going to name this function hello. So another thing is we're going to go through a basic one first. So the first thing is you go def hello, and sorry about that. So welcome back, guys, and we're gonna continue with that. Sorry about that, I just cut it for a few minutes. So def hello. So this time we're gonna make something that looks like this. So this is the first step to writing a function, is naming it. So whatever you put after the def, it has to be in one word, so it can be hello person, but you have to put an underscore, or you can just write hello person like without an underscore, with no space at all. You can't write a hello like that because it won't consider everything you write after that as the name of the function. It'll give you an error. So moving on, and here in the brackets what it is it's a name. So every time you call that function, you're going to pass through the name. I'll show you what I mean in a second. You type in print and then it's gonna go print hi, and then I want it to print hi name. So let's say the name we passed through is Alice. It's gonna go print hi Alice. So let's go name, and we're going through that. So basically, this is just a short function, but that function is pretty much defined right there. So this is the full syntax of a defined function. Moving on, how to call that function. So to call a function, it's really easy. All you have to do now, when you can call it whenever you want in your code, you just type in hello person, and then also it shouldn't shine up. If it does shine up, there'll be an error because it'll be a built-in function. So moving on, hello person, and like we said at the top, we have to pass a name. So the name right now is gonna be, I'm gonna put my name. So I'm gonna put Rihan. And when I press enter, it goes hi Rihan, so it works perfectly. I'm just gonna change that to uppercase. No, what? I don't know this. I don't think my buttons are working. Oh yes, because it's in shell. Actually, in shell you can't change it. That's all. So, hello person. You can redefine this variable, this function whenever you want. So let's say there's a function where you get it wrong and you get it correct. You can redefine it whenever you want. So let's say you want to change this because there's an error. You can just copy paste and redefine it. Sorry about that. So basically that's how you make simple function. But that function is very, very simple. So we're gonna go into in a bit more depth. So I'm gonna make a new function. It's gonna be called def. I'm gonna define it people, and I'm gonna this time I put it blank because if you don't want to pass anything through it, if you don't need to pass anything through it, you can just keep it blank. It's also easier to call. And then I just type print hi. This is just to teach you that you don't need to pass a parameter through it every time. So now I'm just gonna call this function people. Name is not defined. Oh yes. So name is not defined. That is because it passed it in here, but it's not really stored as a variable. Just gonna, so you don't need to try that out. I'll just go into a new thing. So now, moving on, we're gonna make a new function, and this is gonna be a bit of a bigger function though. So we're gonna actually first, you know what? I'm gonna show you guys what I thought I would show you at first. I'm gonna show you modules. So I told you what modules are last class in Python tutorial 2. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already. And I'm gonna type in the name of a module, and the module's name is called Turtle. Try it out yourself. It's a graphics module. Or should we do sys? Because I think we used sys last time, so we're gonna use sys. Then go press OK. Not a source-based system. Okay, then you can't access a module from here, so let's try Turtle. Turtle is a basic graphic module, so you can draw stuff with it in code. So this is how much code is put into a Turtle graphics just to make that simple, really quite simple module. So there's a lot of lines. I'll count how many in a second. I'll be back with you in a minute. So I'm at the bottom right now. I'm at the bottom. I'm just gonna click on here, and it has 4,139 lines of code altogether just in this module. So that's quite a bit of code. Yeah, so that's pretty much that. So I showed you what modules are, how big they are. And there's actually a lot of functions in there. If you saw, I'm gonna open the module up again and show you how many functions. And so going into it, there's a lot of, let's look for some functions. So here, def config dict, and it passes another parameter called file name. So going down, and there's a lot more. All of this code is under the function, and so there's a lot more than we've gone through. So we're not going to go into this in depth yet. So I'm just going to open up a new file. No, I'm going to open a file. So I'm going to just go to open, and it's going to go. So I'm going to open a file and tell you, I'm going to go through it and actually tell you some functions that I made in that. So going down, I'm gonna go through something a bit more less complicated. So let's go into Python. So this is just a basic, very basic quiz about books. So I just looked up some questions, made answers, and stuff like that. So some of this might not make sense to you, but what we're concentrating on, the line we're concentrating on, is just this and when we call it. So firstly, going into this, def check guess. So basically the function that we defined there is called check guess. We pass two parameters through it, guess and answer. So you're gonna put in whenever you call it, you wanna go through. You wanna put in guess. So you're gonna put in what the guess is and also what the correct answer is, so I can actually compare. So when you go down, that's the only function, but we're gonna go through. So there's a lot of code. There's a tiny bit of code right in there, very little, but yeah, there's some code. And yeah, so there's some code over here, all written. Everything that you can see over here is written inside the function because it's indented. Also, for functions you need indents. That's one thing I forgot to mention. So moving on, that's pretty much that. That's the whole function, and we're gonna go through where we call the function. The first place we call the function, and the question was print. This is the author's book I'm reading. The question was, who created Tintin? So check guess. Guess one here is the input of, so for the answer of the user, and check guess. So guess one over here where we put guess one, that is what we passed as the guess over here. So guess, and heard that we put over here is the answer. Well, that we passed it for the answer. So what the function does, it compares these two, checks if it's the same. If it is, it actually converts it into lowercase as well. Then it checks if it's the same, then it goes on. So if it is, then they score a point. If it's not, they lose a point. They lose their life as well. So that's pretty much the same thing, exact same function we use for every single question, and same like logic. So that's an example of a function for you. So most likely, hopefully next class, we're gonna make a little game with a function. So let's define one last function before we go. So def, and I'm gonna call this function, actually, so we'll make a game, we'll make a short game in the next class. I'm thinking of making a short game with you today, but I'll make it with you next class. So, and thank you for coming. Make sure to check out the other videos, and see you later.